Farming. We all do it. Those damn walls ain't gonna farm themselves, right? But sometimes farming can get boring, we get burnt out and stop playing. One of the reasons for that is using the same army over and over. It gets repetitive, and so you may need something new in your life. Today, we're taking a look at some farming strategies covering every town hall in Clash of Clans. All of these strategies are very simple, no skill, drop it with a blindfold on type stuff. And the best part, none of them rely on a clan castle, so don't even worry about that. But yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's do this.
Okay, let's get the obvious ones out of the way. Goblins and sneaky goblins for all town halls. There is nothing in this video that'll be faster and easier than these tried and true methods that have been around forever. The goblins by themselves are awesome for collector style attacks. You simply look for dead bases with full collectors and spread the goblins around those collectors. Because the goblins do 2 times more damage to them, they'll destroy those collectors pretty fast. And you don't even need to use the entire army of them, you just send in whatever you need and that's it. And if you need trophies, it's a good idea to bring some barbarians and archers to get the percentage you need. Once you unlock super troops, you may want to switch to sneaky goblins. They're essentially the same thing but with a few seconds of invisibility, which means they can freely take out those collectors undetected. In fact, because of that, you can get away with dropping just 1 sneaky goblin per collector and about 3 or so per storage if they're on the outside. If you need something inside the walls, you can also bring something to easily break them. If you're queuing up a barracks full of these sneaky goblins and activate a boost, attacking back to back, you'll be getting some insane loot very fast. And if you're concerned about trophy loss, I suggest you to take some jump spells with you and funnel your goblins to the town hall compartment and take it out. This is pretty easy because the goblins see the town hall as a resource building as well. So along with any storages in that compartment, it'll also take the town hall. But make sure you have enough goblins just in case the first batch gets taken out. You can also take some haste spells so that the goblins have like a fast highway to the town hall. And even better, sometimes you can simply use your heroes to take the town hall if it's right next to the outside. The next obvious choice is Barch and GiBarch for town halls 9 and below. Barbarians and archers will never go out of style, and you certainly don't want to sleep on how effective they are at lower town halls. You want to start off by sniping a few buildings that are out of range from archer towers. This will help getting inside the base easier, as the next step is to deploy your barbarians, followed by archers. The barbarians will shield for the archers, but also do some damage by themselves, while the archers shoot from afar. The good thing about Barch compared to just goblins is that you can not only go for collectors, but also get storages inside the base. You can even bring some wallbreakers to make that process easier. But yeah, it doesn't get any more simpler than that. Barbarians first, and then archers. As you go up in town halls, you may want to incorporate some giants to get inside the base easier. Using just Barch at town hall 9 may be a bit of a challenge if you're trying to get the dark elixir storage, for example. So the basis of GiBarch is a stronger variation of Barch, which consists of giants, barbarians, and archers, but feel free to also bring wizards, wallbreakers, and whatever the hell you need. As for spells, I really find it helpful to bring some jump spells, heal, and rage. The jump spells allow you to get inside the base easier without having to bring a bunch of wallbreakers. The heal will help with smaller troops like archers, wizards, and barbarians stay alive longer. And rage, pretty self-explanatory, everything under the rage is stronger and much faster. This is a very customizable strategy, so I'd play around with it, save different armies for different styles of attacking. Next up here is Loonian, not Lava Loonian, just balloons and minions. I recommend this strategy for town halls 7 through 11. Any higher than that, you'll want to bring some lava hounds, but we're just focusing on Loonian today. It's pretty straightforward. All you gotta do is deploy a line of balloons, followed by a line of minions, and then as the balloons go into the base, the minions will pick up the rest of the buildings. As far as heroes go, you don't specifically need them every time, so if they're upgrading, it's completely okay. But if you do have them, even better, you can deploy them on each side to help clean up. Besides the Warden, make sure to deploy him with your balloons on air mode. Alternatively, you can wait to deploy the King and Queen to help clean up later, but it's really up to you. Now, the amount of spells you can bring will vary based on your Town Hall level, but I like to bring 4 raid spells. You can also bring haste spells, they do kind of the same thing. At the end of the day, it's just your personal preference, but the point is to have spells that help everything move faster and shred through the base. I normally deploy 2 raid spells at the beginning where I deploy all of the balloons and wait to see where the balloons go after that. Most of the time, a big bunch of them end up in the middle of the base, so I deploy a rage there as well. Wherever they go, honestly. You're not in charge, the balloons are. Just make sure not to stack any rage spells because they do not double up and you'll just be wasting them. As you go up above Town Hall 7, I would incorporate at least 1 poison spell to help take out Clan Castle troops easier, and some free spells, which can come in handy to freeze any air sweepers or inferno towers. Whatever you have to freeze to keep your balloons and minions alive, do it. Don't sweat it though. I mean, I make mistakes all of the time with spell placement, and realistically, you're not gonna get the 3-star every time, but the beauty of it is that it's very simple and it'll get you tons of loot regardless, so who cares? I also love how through all of those town halls, you're essentially using the exact same army, just adding more balloons, more minions, and more spells, as if you're building upon it. As I said, it's the same attack, the only difference is the hero placement, depending on what you want to do with them. And while that goes on, I thought it was a good time to talk about hero equipment. The King and Queen don't really matter all too much here, I just used whatever was fun. The Queen's giant arrow does come in handy, but yeah, it's more fun than anything else, so just use whatever you want. And as for the Grand Warden, I kept it at default most of the time. I felt the Eternal Tomb and Life Gem was already good enough for air attacks, so that's why I didn't mess with it much. But yeah, I'm gonna sound like a broken record throughout the video, but it's really up to you. Play around with it, have fun, knock yourself out, you know? Next up is one of my personal favorites, GoBoWitch. Golems, bowlers, and witches. This strategy can take forever to train if you're not running a boost, but I think it's worth it. It's super easy, and actually it's been my go-to strategy ever since I got to Town Hall 12. The old reliable, if you will. This army has carried me through times where I should have got 0 stars, but I didn't. Here are a few example armies. It is always 2 or 3 golems, and the rest bowlers and witches, sometimes yetis, with a combination of rage, heal, and freeze. At the lower town halls, you can also substitute some of those spells for earthquakes since you cannot train a siege machine. So I usually attack from the side with the Eagle Artillery and or Monolith, then drop golems, witches, bowlers, heroes, and any siege machine you got. I prefer a log launcher instead of having to bring wall breakers or earthquakes. Basically, everything is dropped at the beginning. The rest of the match is simply placing your spells and using your hero abilities. I like to drop a rage pretty early on. I heal when troops are in the center or they're taking any damage from heavy hitting defenses, and for the free spells, usually the Eagle Artillery, Monolith, Town Hall, you know, the usual suspects. It's basically the same steps throughout all of the town halls, and that's why I love GoBoWitch. Once you learn, you're set. Now for hero equipment, I think Earthquake Boots is a pretty smart move here. I heavily rely on the log launcher to break walls, so something else helping with that is a no-brainer. All of the other heroes, I kind of just bring whatever sounds fun. I mean, you're farming, so just have fun with it, you know? The next strategy we're taking a look at is mass miners for Town Hall 10 to 12. You could do this at Town Hall 13 and above, but I believe at those town halls it's better with a queen charge or hybrid, unless you're exclusively going for dead bases, so proceed with caution. That being said, we're taking a look at mass miners by themselves. Anyways, I'm on my newly upgraded Town Hall 11 account, but I actually haven't upgraded anything besides 1 queen level, so that's why we're attacking Town Hall 10s. The first step is to create a simple funnel, and deciding where to do so is key. Your biggest threat at Town Hall 11 and 12 is the Eagle Artillery, so you may want to pick the side that's on. To create the funnel, you can either use the miners themselves, bring a couple baby dragons, use your heroes, and some people even like to bring 2 P.E.K.K.A.s and 2 wizards. The goal is to minimize the chances of your miners deciding to go around the base, and yeah, they like to do that. Alright, so in go the miners. Sometimes you want to drop a heal spell immediately. Best case scenario, the miners stick together the entire match. But more often than not, they will split up, so you'll have to also split your heal spells if that happens. It's not the end of the world. I usually bring 5 heal spells with a poison, which is a pretty good amount to keep them alive and also take care of any clan castle troops. But you can also include some free spells, which I have played with before. The benefit to that is you can freeze the Eagle Artillery if you didn't get it, and Inferno Towers, any splash damage, stuff like that. I'm not the best attacker, so sometimes I screw up these spell placements, but it's no biggie. I come out with tons of loot anyways, and that's all that matters when farming. As for the heroes, you can either drop them with the miners or wait to use them for cleanup later. But one thing you do want to deploy with the miners is the Grand Warden, as it'll help them stay alive a bit longer and do more damage depending on what equipment you use. But yeah, masked miners is kind of like masked hogs. Drop them and keep them alive, and that's it. Some things to consider is that the miners' biggest threat is splash damage, clan castle troops, and the Eagle Artillery. So when you're considering hero spell placement and also your funnel, you should take that into account. But even sometimes when I forget to do all that planning or just don't feel like it, it's a pretty effective strategy at just destroying a base. As for hero equipment, I found that the Eternal Tomb and Healing Tomb worked pretty well for the Warden, and for the King, I really love the Earthquake Boots because the miners cannot break walls, and so the extra help can aid in your heroes not being stuck on walls the entire match. Moving on, we have Mass Electro Dragons, recommended from pretty much the time you unlock it at Town Hall 11. Here are a few example armies between the Town Halls. As you can see, the army is mostly composed of Electro Dragons with a little bit of balloons, and a mixture of rage, freeze, and poison spells. More on that in a second. These are just a few example armies. I'd play around with them to your liking. At the higher town halls, you may want to take more free spells. Bases get bigger, and so there's generally more things you want to freeze. You can even take the Grand Warden's Rage Gem and substitute some rage spells for even more freeze. Just go crazy, man. Also, it may be a good idea to still take a siege machine even if it's empty. It'll help. The goal is simply to deploy a few balloons first, then spam the E-Drags, and then follow that with the rest of the balloons, kind of like a E-Drag balloon sandwich. Then you want to follow that up with the Warden on air mode, but the rest of the heroes is up to you. Some people like to spam them with the army. I kind of just spam them at the beginning. Some people wait to the end to clean up after. Whatever it is, it's gonna give you similar results. After that, 2 rage spells on each end of the army so that they rush in and do tons of damage. I bought 3 rage spells, 3 freeze, and 1 poison, but you can always swap out any spell for whatever you want. The reason for the poison is to deal with any potential clan castle troops. It doesn't always take them out altogether, but the heroes can help with that as well. And the freezes are there to help with anything really. Air sweepers, inverter towers, scattershot, the town hall weapon, whatever is doing the most damage to your electro dragons, basically just freeze it. And I mean, yeah, the rest of it is pretty straightforward. Drop any spells if you still have any, clean up troops, or if you're heroes, if you held on to those, and that's it, you're all set. Now I do have a little bit of advice, the little I can give, because I'm not a pro at E-Drags or anything. I mean, hey, I'm just farming with them. If you're having a hard time with the dragons going around the base, it might be a good idea to bring a couple of baby dragons or anything that can help you funnel. You can even use your heroes in certain situations. And also, you want to avoid bases that are too spread out, unless the loot is irresistible. E-Drags are most effective when they're connecting each shot, and if buildings are too far apart, that won't happen. But even sometimes, like this base for example, I took my chances and still managed to get 100%. It wasn't that bad, but yeah, just have fun with it. Play around with hero placement, swap some spells out. You can even bring more balloons or an extra E-Drag in a clan castle, but I don't like to rely on donations for farming, so that's why I didn't bring it up initially. In fact, all of these armies in this video are like that. You can just dive into an attack without clan castle troops. And you know what? You can also bring an empty empty siege machine. I do that all of the time. It works. As for hero equipment, it's gonna be the same for all of these armies. It's truly up to you. I love the earthquake boots, giant arrow, and the warden's probably the most important one here. I kept it at default most of the time, but like I said earlier, you can also bring the rage gem and bring more free spells. In fact, that's what worked better for me as a new Town Hall 15 with underleveled electro dragons. But yeah, play around with it and see what works for you. Next up, we're taking a look at Mass Yetis for Town Hall 12 and up. A really fun set and forget strategy with the usual spell placement shenanigans. First, I pick a side to attack from. Usually it's the side with the Eagle Artillery, so that I can line it up with my log launcher, and then spam away. All of your Yetis get deployed with your heroes and log launcher. Sometimes I bring something to immediately break the walls, like a wallbreaker or super wallbreaker, but it's not necessary. I like to rage right at the start so that the Yetis go rushing in, and I also use some free spells on the Eagle Artillery, or really anything that you need to freeze. More than likely the Yetis will split up. Sometimes some will even go outside the base, but no worries. Drop rage spells as they split up into groups, keeping them raged up throughout the match. Most of the strategy here is simply picking a side to attack and properly placing spells and using hero abilities. But even if you screw it up, the Yetis themselves are powerful and will do quite a bit of damage by themselves. But because this is a spam attack with minimal planning, sometimes the attack doesn't go as planned, and so you don't get all of the loot sometimes. But honestly, it's really easy to do, and I'm happy taking L's here and there. It's really satisfying to be able to attack just about any base, whether the loot is inside, outside, dead base, maxed, even town halls above you. It doesn't matter. I absolutely love Yeti armies. They're very simple and easy to get the hang of. A lot of the time I am able to 3-star with this strategy, but I don't care about the stars, it's all about the loot for me, and this one does it. For hero equipment, honestly, it's kind of the same as every ground army in this video. Earthquake boots is really good, which is the only one I'd really recommend. But yeah. So yeah, those are my top picks for the best armies to farm with. Realistically, the fastest options will be the first few ones. Goblins, sneaky goblins, Barch. But like I said, sometimes that stuff can get boring and you're just looking for something else. So if you don't mind waiting for an army to cook up, these armies are pretty fun to use and also very simple. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and as always, Havoc Gaming out. Peace!